Good evening. Our top story. Police believe a feud between two rival gangs led to an innocent 12-year-old boy being shot in a drive-by attack in Sheffield.
The boy is in a stable condition in hospital after the incident in Arbourthorne yesterday afternoon. Extra police patrols have been working in the area. In Sheffield, over the last 9 months, at least 8 young people aged 18 or under have been shot or stabbed. Mark Hansel reports.
Yo, what's going on, people? It's your boy Ape Huncho, back at you again with another video. So this next story we're about to get into feels like a repeat of the one I recently covered in Huddersfield, in the sense that an innocent person has been involved in an incident, and then for whatever reason, the person who's hurt that innocent person takes it upon themselves to start rapping about it as if the innocent person was their op. So this whole situation would start at around 10:55 PM on the 10th of January 2020, where shots would be fired on Northcote Avenue in Sheffield, and it was said that no one had been injured during the shooting, and some people were arrested but were subsequently released pending further inquiries. 2 days later, on the 12th of January 2020, at around 3:45 PM, in broad daylight, a 12-year-old boy had been with 3 of his friends, all 16 years old or younger, standing outside the shops on Northern Avenue in Sheffield, when a white Ford Focus drove past and a gunman opened fire. The 12-year-old boy was shot in his leg and was rushed to hospital, where he had to go on to have surgery in his left thigh. He remained in stable condition and went on to make a full recovery. Another boy was also hit, but we'll get into more details as we go through the trial. It should be noted though that the 12-year-old boy and his group of friends are in no way associated to any gangs, rather they were just innocent bystanders. In a statement from the boy's father released via police at the time of the shooting, he went on to say, "On Sunday afternoon, my son, who's just 12 years old, was out playing with his friends when he was shot in broad daylight. This is a shocking and horrifying thing for a parent to hear has happened to their child. I have confidence that the police are doing all they can, but if you have any information that might help them, please tell them, speak to them and help them with their investigation." At some point later, the police would go on to arrest 25-year-old Stephen Dunford, and he would go on to be charged with attempted murder and possession of a firearm with intent to endanger life. He would also be connected to the January 10th shooting, and they would go on to charge him with possession of a firearm with intent to endanger life in connection to a firearms discharge. They would also go on to arrest 23-year-old Devin Gregory and charge him with attempted murder and possession of a firearm with intent to endanger life. And at some point in March, police would go on to arrest 26-year-old Brandon Bailey, and they would charge him with conspiracy to possess a firearm with intent to endanger life and possession of criminal property. So Brandon Bailey would go on to plead guilty to possession of criminal property, but would deny the other offence, and the other two also denied charges brought against them, and so a trial was to go ahead in August. At the trial, more details would emerge of what allegedly happened on the day of the January 12th shooting. The boy, who can't be named for legal reasons, had been meeting his friends outside DJ's sandwich shop on Northern Avenue as they were planning to go to the cinema, and then out of nowhere a white Ford Focus drove up slowly and then let off shots before speeding off. The 12-year-old boy was then hit and managed to run to his home along with his friends, where they waited for emergency services to arrive. A second boy narrowly avoided injury when a bullet passed through the hood of his jumper, inches from his head. The prosecution said that the 12-year-old boy might not have been the intended target, and went on to say, but it was the intention to kill. It may be that they hit the wrong person, but that doesn't matter. If they intended to kill but ended up shooting the boy, the prosecution submit they are guilty of attempted murder. In interviews with police describing what happened, the boy would go on to say that he seen a front passenger cocking a handgun and leaning over the driver before firing, and even though he was wearing a hood, he could recognise that it was Stephen because he could see his eyes and eyebrows, and he heard him shouting, "We've got one," after he shot him, and then he recognised his voice. You see, the 12-year-old's father and obviously the 12-year-old boy had knew Stephen Dunford, and in fact it was only one night before that the 12-year-old and his father had seen him. On top of this, the court was also told that the boy's father had also noticed that Stephen had posted a video onto Facebook after he got arrested, which was a phone call from jail. And on that call he raps about the shooting, and it was here the boy's description of his voice was matched to how the video sounded. The rap video was played to the court, and this is some of what he said. 5 shootings in 2 days, since I come to jail the shooting stopped. Feds in the interview saying I'm the boss. If I get guilty, I'm getting lifed off. I was really trying to take him away, then a youth got astray. Have you ever had gun smoke go in your face? Swear I can't forget that taste. How many times did I jump the whip, empty the clip? The 357 nearly took man's block off. I was trying to turn man's hoodie into a vest top. If I don't bust case, it's life in the can. The prosecution went on to say that this is a direct reference to the shooting because the police had recovered a 357 caliber bullet, just like how he rapped about, and one of the shots of the same caliber matched the hole that was found in that boy's jacket hood who nearly got hit during the shooting. The boy claimed he saw another hooded person in the back with a shotgun and said he couldn't identify this person, but the prosecution went on to allege that that was Devin Gregory. The court was told that a shotgun that Devin had been holding during the shooting was found at a flat of a drug addict who was known to him, and she told the police that he had left it there. The shotgun had Brandon Bailey's DNA on it, but the prosecution went on to say that Brandon hadn't been in the car at the time of the drive-by shooting. However, upon searching Brandon's house, they recovered around £19,970 in cash, and the prosecution went on to claim the money was made by means of committing crime. This was the charge that Brandon pleaded guilty to, for anyone that was wondering. At a further court date, a police witness statement was read out by the prosecution, which was from Saffron Lewis, and she said there were two people in the car, they bolted at full speed around the corner and then stopped in front of us, and from memory I heard 4 to 5 shots and kids start to scream. She added that the car did a U-turn and she thought that they were coming back to look at the scene, but instead they made their way to Eastern Avenue. She then went on to say that she saw a hooded driver and a front seat passenger, but added she couldn't see anyone in the back seat because a view had been blocked. At a further court date, body cam footage was shown to the court from PC Alec, and this is a small transcript of what was said. In the footage, the 12-year-old boy says, "You know who shot me? It was Stephen Dunford. He used to buy me drinks." It was also heard that Stephen had asked to speak to a senior prison officer at HMP Hull on the 22nd of August. When they spoke, he told the officer that there was a £75,000 bounty on his head by a rival gang leader who was his cousin. During the conversation, the officer said that Stephen said, "I would have been off if I hadn't mentioned guns on a bugged visit," but when asked if he was the shooter, he replied, "No comment." None of this conversation was recorded though, and when asked by the defence, the officer said that body cams could only be worn for specific situations in the prison. It was heard in November of 2019 Stephen Dunford had pleaded guilty to dangerously driving the Ford Focus that had been used in the shooting of the 12-year-old. He would go on to say that the car was available for anyone who wanted to use it in the area, but he wouldn't say who else had access to it. When asked why not by the prosecutor, he said, "Firearms have been used in this incident and I don't want my family being targeted any more than they have." The court was then told that after the shooting, the car was found on fire in Clough Road, but Stephen denied setting fire to it. In regards to his whereabouts at the time of the shooting, he would go on to relay his version of events to the court via his barrister. He would go on to say, "I was at my grandparents' home and I did not leave. I was definitely there at 3:44. Also, there was my grandmother, grandfather, uncle, auntie and cousin." Asked by his barrister if any of those would be given evidence in the case, Stephen replied, "They're not coming to court because my granddad's got cancer and my nana is stressing in that. My auntie is an NHS worker and I don't want to put them through this sort of experience." It should also be noted that cell site data showed that he was no way near his grandparents' address at around the time of the shooting. After the shooting, Stephen said allegedly that his father was beaten up by 4 men and had to have his spleen removed. His nan's house was shot at, his sister's next door neighbour's house was smashed up and his auntie's windows had been put through, adding that due to the attacks, they were all now being put in safe houses. It was said a few days after the 12-year-old had been shot, Stephen had ended up handing himself into the police and was then arrested because his stories wasn't adding up. And when he was questioned about why the stories didn't add up, he replied, "I'd been in the police cells for 3 days and hadn't had cannabis. I do a lot of cannabis and I hadn't had any. My head was all over the place, to be honest. I just said what I said." In regards to the shooting on the 10th of January, the court heard that an Audi Stephen had hired was in fact involved in the shooting. And the reason he was charged with the shooting is because a bullet was found in a tyre which was linked back to him. He claimed he hired it in his mother's name on the 8th of January because he wanted to show off in front of women, but claimed he lent someone the car on the day of the shooting on the 10th, but wouldn't name the person who borrowed it because he said that the person said that they would shoot him or his mum, adding they basically said they will leg shot my mum, which means they'll shoot my mum in the leg. So after a 6-week trial, it wrapped up yesterday on the 21st of September 2020, and Stephen was found guilty of attempted murder and possession of a firearm with intent to endanger life. He was also found guilty of possession of a firearm with intent to endanger life in connection to a firearms discharge in relation to the shooting that had happened on the 10th of January. Devin Gregory had been found not guilty on all charges brought against him and was free to go, and Brandon Bailey was found guilty of conspiracy to possess a firearm with intent to endanger life, and of course he already had previously pleaded guilty to possession of criminal property. Judge Jeremy Richardson QC told Stephen, "You fought to be sentenced on October the 2nd. It is likely to be a substantial sentence, and I may well be considering a life sentence." Brandon Bailey is also to be given his sentence on this date. After the trial, Julian Briggs from the Crown Prosecution Service said, "Although it's likely that the young boy was not the intended target, the jury decided that Stephen Dunford's clear intention that day was to kill someone, and today they found him guilty of attempted murder. It is only by great fortune that Dunford's actions did not result in the tragic death of a 12-year-old child. The second child also narrowly escaped serious injury or death. Dunford is a highly dangerous individual, and he is now facing a long jail sentence. Our thoughts remain with the boy and his family as he continues to recover from his injury." Now, although Stephen was in a gang and seemingly involved in that kind of lifestyle, unlike the other two that we looked at in Huddersfield, he still went on to rap as if the kids he shot at were a part of a rival gang when that just wasn't the case. And even if they were, the kid who got hit was 12 years old. Is that something to really be bragging about? I don't really think it is. What's quite scary in this case for the people who actually live in this part of Sheffield though, is that leading up to the shooting of the 12-year-old boy, multiple other shootings had taken place which police believe are in some way connected to an ongoing feud between two gangs, and they believe that Stephen was acting out his part in this ongoing feud. Even after this shooting, if you do a quick Google search right now, you'll see that it's being heavily underreported by mainstream media outlets. Of course, the local news is reporting on it, but it seems as if there's been at least 10, if not more shootings, with even as recent as September the 14th, where it's believed that shots were fired near a primary school. Of course, these two will be sentenced on the 2nd of October, and I'll more than likely put a community tab post up, and I'll post up onto my Instagram as well. If you guys don't have me on Instagram, it's 8huncho with the number 0 instead of the letter O, so if you could drop me a follow, that would be great. But let me know what you guys think of this in the comment section below. Give the video a little like, and if you want the latest drill, street and music news out of the UK, be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. It's been your boy 8huncho, and I'm out.